Okay.
Good.
Okay, tell me.
Yes.
You start?
Yes.
Stop.
Did you already start?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to finish tonight. We're going to finish Teachings for Victory, Volume 4, The 4 Virtues and the 4 Debts of Gratitude. We're on page 22. We're going to start by where it says, striving to overcome coldness and indifference in our lives. Page 22.
22.
You with me? Okay, before I start, I always kind of check every once in a while to see if there's something that's totally germane. The guidance from President Keita on 1028 was this. It says, to live with dignity as human beings and reveal the full shining potential of our humanity. Nothing can surpass this. Only in this way can we realize genuine human happiness, peace, and coexistence with the natural world. This should be the purpose of all scientific and technological progress as well. Do you understand what that just said? The depth of what that just said? Let me paraphrase it a bit. He says, to live with dignity as human beings, okay, and which is to live as somebody that others can look to and rely upon. Okay? The dignity of your humanity is what he's talking about. The all-encompassing nature of your wisdom is really what he's referring to. Okay? So he's saying, and she says, to live with dignity as human beings and reveal the full shining potential of our humanity. What is that? What's the full shining potential of our humanity? Our Buddhahood. Our Buddhahood. Nothing can surpass this, which we all know. That's what we've been studying. This is the goal in life, right? Okay, so he says, only in this way can we realize genuine human happiness, peace, and coexistence with the natural world. What is that? Genuine human happiness, peace, and coexistence with the natural world would be Kosen Rufu.
Oh, okay.
Okay? This should be the purpose of all scientific and technological progress as well. In other words, everything in life should be geared toward Kosen Rufu because everybody wins. You follow? Okay. And then also, before we start reading, I want to emphasize again from the 3 kinds of treasure, the line, the heart of the Buddhist, the heart of the Buddha's lifetime of teachings is the Lotus Sutra. And the heart of the practice of the Lotus Sutra is found in the Never Disparaging chapter. What does Bodhisattva Never Disparaging's profound respect for people signify? The purpose of the appearance in this world of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of Teachings, lies in his behavior as a human being. The wise may be called human, but the thoughtless are no more than animals. Okay, so the thoughtless are no more than animals. Ooh. So, thoughtless. What does thoughtless mean?
Without knowledge.
You don't really think about others than anything other than yourself. Okay, thoughtless is without regard toward something other than you. Thoughtlessness towards yourself is not usually referred to as thoughtless. Thoughtless is your disregard for a circumstance or for the reality of what's around you. That's thoughtless. You're just passing through. You're not giving it any mind. Okay? So, striving, starting on page 22, second column, striving to overcome the coldness and indifference in our own lives. What does that bring to mind? Anybody? What's coldness and indifference in our lives? What's he talking about? What's the human nature that he's talking about? The truth is that in all life is freaking hard. Life is a struggle for not just us, for all the animals, for everything that exists because of evolution is a reflection of the difficulty of life.
Yes.
Okay? So overcoming the coldness and indifference in our own lives, okay, is the reality just like everything else that's alive No matter what I think about you, I care about myself. Okay? I want to live.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Most people don't think about the lives of other people. They're too involved in thinking about their own. If we think about lives of others, we really don't carry it beyond an immediate circle of either friends or family. We very rarely think about it in regard to humankind. We very rarely think about it in regards to something that encompasses all races, all genders, all ethnicities, all kinds of people, every good, bad, every kind of living thing that exists is part of this same sphere. It's either in an enlightened state or a deluded state. It's all the same. It's all connected. None of it is better than other. Do you understand? All right, so the coldness, to overcome the coldness and indifference in our lives, that coldness and indifference comes from what? What generates that perspective? A sense of separation between you and others, because all other religions connect you with you and a higher power. It doesn't have shit to do with other people. All you got to do is win over your relationship with the higher power, kiss the higher power's ass.
Right.
Excuse me for my way of stating this. Yeah, you're making faces. What do you disagree with? No, again, you lay some specificity on me rather than shock up my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything that would validate a different position than the one I just took? No. Because basically, coldness and indifference comes from animality. It comes from the lower life conditions. Okay? It comes from those life conditions that live as separated. The higher life conditions don't live as separated. In fact, the Lotus Sutra qualifies that learning, realization, and bodhisattva are the same as Buddhahood. They're just components of Buddhahood, right? All the higher worlds are exactly the same in reality if you understand the teaching correctly as was ultimately clarified, right? So overcoming coldness and indifference in our own lives means that we begin to see the world through the eyes of the Buddha rather than the eyes of the common mortal. The common mortal sees that difference. The common mortal sees that lack of connection. Okay? A Buddha doesn't. A Buddha sees everything combined. Everything's a part of the same thing. Everything's all connected. Right? Okay, so he's saying striving to overcome coldness and indifference in our lives is another way of saying what? No.
We are one.
Yeah, that's not the point. That's not what I'm trying. That's not the point here. We are one, but that's not the point.
Care for the others. We care for the others.
Yeah, but so what? So do missionaries. Right. Striving to overcome the coldness and indifference in our own lives is striving to attain Buddhahood in our present form. Because to actually overcome the coldness and indifference in our lives is not to just feel pity and sorrow for other people. It's to actually represent a solution to every goddamn problem they have. By being who you are and doing what you do. Okay? That's being a Buddha. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. So, going on with the Gosho, picking up where we left off last week. The four virtues are filial piety toward one's father and mother. 2, loyalty to one's Lord. 3, courtesy toward one's friends. And 4, pity and kindness toward those less fortunate than oneself. First, being filial, continue with the Gosho. First, being filial toward one's father and mother means that though a parent may act unreasonably or speak in a tone of ill will, one never shows the slightest anger or looks displeased. One never in any way disobeys a parent, is always mindful of providing a parent with all manner of good things. And if this happens to be impossible, in the course of a day, one at least smiles twice or thrice in their direction. Second, being loyal to one's Lord means that one never has anything to be ashamed of in serving him. Though it may mean sacrificing one's own life, if it will benefit one's Lord, one acts with a willing heart. For though one's trustworthiness may at first go unnoticed, in time it will be openly rewarded. Continuing with President Ikeda's lecture. The Daishonin, everybody's with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Daishonin starts by citing the 4 virtues of filial piety, loyalty, courtesy, and piety and kindness, offering detailed instructions concerning the behavior of a worthy or wise person. The first 3, piety, loyalty, and courtesy, are virtues found in Taoist and Confucian teachings, while the 4th, pity and kindness, is a virtue emphasized in Buddhist teachings. Okay, everybody's with me, right? Okay. In citing these 4 virtues, he is not simply repeating old cliched values. So if that's what you think he's talking about by coldness, that is not. He's not talking about Western values in any way, shape, or form here. All right? He's saying, in citing these 4 virtues, he is not simply repeating old cliched values. Rather, he can be seen as having carefully selected from the vast array of Asian philosophy and thought principles that he knew could serve as a practical foundation that would be advantageous to Tokimitsu, advantageous to a young man developing his character and making his way in the world. Okay, advantageous to a young man trying to be respectful and respect-worthy. Okay, these are the building blocks of becoming a great man. Okay, a great person. In addition, he doesn't just present filial piety, loyalty, and courtesy as abstract virtues, okay, but as embodiments of the proper behavior of a Buddhist. Okay? Now, I wouldn't have gotten that out of this just reading it through without President Ikeda qualifying it quite to this degree. All right? He says, so let's go back over it again. He goes, first, he discusses being filial toward one's father and mother. In other words, being good to one's parents. Okay? Now, does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
What is being good towards one's parents?
Listen, be a good son or a good daughter.
Huh?
Respect.
To care.
Help,
the
care.
first thing is to care. You know, the first thing is to have a sense of loyalty and responsibility toward them that reflects the nature of the relationship you have with them. You wouldn't exist without them. If you disrespect them to the point of disregard, you're creating bad karma for yourself. He's really trying to teach you, don't make the causes that create fortune. Don't make the causes that make it go away. Okay? That's all this is going to be about. Listen to it carefully. First, he discusses being filial toward one's father and mother. In other words, being good to one's parents. Even parents who are extremely critical. And let's face it, we all know people, if not ourselves, who had really shitty parents. Okay? This is not saying all parents are great, and therefore let's hold them up as being the great individuals that they are. This is acknowledging who parents are to you, no matter how they were. Okay? And why they were parents to you, no matter how they were. And how you affect change in them and yourself by virtue of how you behave toward them, regardless of how they behave towards you.
Yes.
Okay? That you control your karma.
Right.
They are a reflection. How they're behaving is a reflection of your karma. Not a reflection of your karma to know these bad people or these people that didn't understand. The fact that you weren't understood is your karma. They're an instrument of your reality being reflected at you. Okay? They're not separate in that way. All right? So, even parents who are extremely critical or who are attached to outdated ways of thinking and have little understanding of the younger generation can be motivated by an intense concern for their children and a willingness to undergo any sacrifice for their children's welfare. When children go the extra mile to try to understand their parents' hearts, they can make dramatic strides in deepening their own character and developing the ability to appreciate their parents' struggles. Now, I got kicked out of the house when I was 15. Okay, I clarified that to my son last night. I didn't actually get kicked out. I didn't like somebody had a foot in my ass. I said, I'm splitting. I can't take this shit. My stepmom said, if you do, you're never coming back. And I said, don't worry, I don't plan on it. Okay, so I said I got kicked out. I left without a recourse. All right, but had I not started practicing, and here was the complicating thing. My stepmom was going through menopause. Okay, for everybody, I think we're all big enough to know what that means, probably in terms of emotional and hormonal changes. She was not having a happy time. Okay, with what she was experiencing. But especially with a smart-ass kid like me who refused to absolutely listen to anything anybody told him to do, okay? But because of Buddhism, I was able to actually make the determination that I was going to show the power of the Gohonzon by changing my mom's relationship with me, her attitude toward me, because my mom had a reputation as being kind of a bitchy person anyhow. It wasn't like everybody felt, you know, I was the bad one. They're going like, poor kid. All right? Yeah, I can understand why Tommy would have had some problems there. Okay? So she was unfairly, in reality, taking a lot of the heat for me splitting as though, you know, I was in this untenable situation. When in reality, I was doing what I'd always done, whatever the hell I want to. Okay? And she wanted me to start behaving as though, you know, no. I've been on my own since I was born, basically. You can't suddenly, as a mid-teen, suddenly tame me. You won't tame me. I'm not going to be tamed. I don't have to listen to other people. I have that right. I can die if I want to. Okay? That's kind of my attitude, which is true. It was where I was coming from. I'm going to anyhow. I'm going to go to Vietnam, get my head blown off. You have to understand the world that I was living in. It was a different one than the one we're living in right now, for sure, night and day. So he's saying, when children go the extra mile to try to understand their parents' hearts, only by chanting Daimoku to the Gohonzon about this objective was I able to understand my mom, and able to finally, for the first time, say, you know, asshole, you're an asshole to me. To acknowledge myself, what a terrible teen I had been. What a habitual liar and scammer I was. How anybody that had tried to step into the role that she tried to step in as my stepmom after my birth mom had been sick for so many years. You know, the impossibility of what she was trying to do with me with the level of respect and reflective behavior. Again, wow, this is all on me. So for the first time, without anybody telling me, instead of blaming her for all the things that I'd blamed her forever, and that everybody had said, you're right, I took the full responsibility for my karma based on the teachings of Buddhism and chanted to the Gohonzon to prove it to me. And I'll tell you the quick story, the end of the story, is I was kicked out of the house. I was not allowed to come to my home. I was going to be, my brothers were not allowed to talk to me. I might be a bad influence. They would become like me. My dad had to sneak and meet me at destinations. I had to call him at work. We had to off secret. Okay. So my dad says, you know, I want you to come home for Christmas. And I'm going like, dude, no way. You know, that's not going to work. He's going, no, I want you to, I'm going to insist. So I actually thought my dad had a conversation or something with my stepmom, and I was invited. So I chanted and chanted and chanted with all the happiness that I was going to come, you know, boy, if this is a foot in the door, let me get a bunch of presents and change my behavior and show how much this Buddhism is working for me. Because on top of everything else, everybody knows I've given up on Jesus, okay? Which I have. I've given up on Jesus at this point. I am definitely a total Nam-myoho Renge kid. Okay. And so I walk into our house, and I got all these gifts. And I happen to work at Pier 1 Imports as the assistant manager. I got this huge freaking discount. I was able to get all this really cool shit for not that much money. I pass them around. Everybody's like all excited. Nobody. And by the way, I get to the front door. And when I get to the front door, everybody's going, Tommy, what the hell are you doing here? What do you mean, what am I doing here? Dad? My dad was too much of a chicken to actually take this up with my mom. He knew how she would react. He had forgotten. He had told me I was invited.
Yeah.
Okay? So he's even shocked that I'm showing up. Okay? So I've chanted all this sincere daimoku, though, about taking the full responsibility and showing actual proof to them. See, part of the thing was I knew if I could change my relationship with my mom, that was something that all of them knew Jesus could not do.
Right.
No. This became the source of all of my benefit. You have no idea how much benefit I've gotten from chanting for the express purpose of showing what Jesus could not do. That Buddhism and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo can. Like that. And this is why I have so much faith. I wish you could all have all these kinds of benefits that I've had. Because if you did, there would never be a chance for there to be a squeak of doubt to be in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because what ended up happening, as everybody's shocked to see me there,
Mm-hmm.
I go, "Where's Mom?" And they go, "She's in the kitchen." She's in the kitchen. And I walk in the kitchen, and my mom's at the sink, preparing the food, doing the thing, whatever the Christmas thing was. And I walked up behind her, and I put my arms around her, and I said, "Merry Christmas, Mom. I love you." And I kissed her on the cheek. And she turned around, and she was crying, and she embraced me. And I was her favorite kid from that point on. I was her favorite kid from that point on. And when she died, she chanted Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. She didn't pray to freaking Jesus. And she didn't get that from anybody but her boy, Tommy. Okay? So, when I talk about parents, when I talk about all this shit about behavior as a human being, I'm somebody that has gone through it. I have changed. I changed the core of my life based on the teaching of Nichiren and the strength and the power and the infinite absolute truth of this Buddhism. So let me continue. When children go the extra mile try to understand their parents' hearts, they can make dramatic strides in deepening their own character and developing the ability to appreciate their parents' struggles. I just showed you. I just told you, but I showed that exact paragraph in action. For both better and worse, life tendencies at the deepest level are often passed from parent to child. So we sit here and we blame our parents for how screwed up we are because of the mistakes they made because they're common mortals and they didn't have any more wisdom than we do in the absence of practice. Don't blame them because you can't have it in the absence of practice. And it's the compassion of practice that allows you to understand and accept that. And they become your children.
Yes.
Okay? And you must understand that's your relationship with them. Parent, child, parent, doesn't matter. You guys are locked into existence. All right? For both better and worse, life tendencies at the deepest level are often passed from parent to child. The important thing is to transform. Now, what does transform mean? That means turn it from what it is into something else. It doesn't mean to take it, get rid of it, and replace it. Okay? The important thing is to transform negative, harmful tendencies into positive, constructive ones that can draw out our inherent goodness without limit by bringing forth our Buddhahood. Do you understand? Yes. Nichiren Buddhism teaches that we all have within us the power to make that transformation.
Yes.
Okay? I'm sorry if I'm getting a little over the top here, but this is really important shit.
Yes.
Mr. Toda said, this is quoting President Toda, there are so many young people who are incapable of having compassion for their own parents.
Yeah.
How can they be expected to care about perfect strangers? The effort to overcome the coldness and indifference in our own lives and attain the same state of compassion as the Buddha is the essence of human revolution. He is saying that. And so if you think you've done human revolution because you advanced in work or you advanced in life in some way, yet you still can look at other people of other ethnicities, or you can look at black and white and you can make judgments. You can say this one's bad and this one's good. You didn't do human revolution. Human revolution is this wisdom of the equality of all things. The effort to overcome the coldness and indifference in our own lives and attain the same state of compassion as the Buddha is the essence of human revolution. If you've achieved human revolution, there's no one that you don't care for. There's no human being that Buddha does not care for. He is saying that everything hinges on whether we can overcome our coldness and indifference. We need to take responsibility for changing our own karma. Oh my God, it's not mom and dad's fault? He is saying the effort to overcome the coldness and indifference in our own lives and attain the same state of compassion as the Buddha is the essence of human revolution. He is saying that everything hinges on whether we can overcome our coldness and indifference. We need to take responsibility for changing our own karma. Mr. Toda especially urged young people to challenge their human revolution. Their human revolution. You become the Buddha in your present form based on your faith and practice. That's how you'll save everybody else you care about. I've encouraged young people, top of page 24, first column. I've encouraged young people in exactly the same spirit. Being good to your parents is the first step in the Buddhist practice of treating all people with compassion. Okay? Start with mom and dad. By teaching Tokimitsu the importance of being good to one's parents and offering them a warm smile 2 or 3 times a day, Nichiren sets forth a basic step for human revolution based on faith in the mystic law, which is the key to revealing the life state of Buddhahood and opening the way to happiness for all people. As the French author Antoine
de Saint-Exupéry.
Say it out loud.
Antoine de Saint-Exupéry.
What she said. Wrote, very often the essential is weightless. Here the essential seems to have been merely a smile. A smile is often a smile is often the most essential thing, even though it seems like something so simple. Think about how often a smile changes everything. Changes everybody around you. Even when it's really, things are all screwed up. When you smile, you freak everybody out. Right? A smile is often the most essential thing. One is repaid by a smile. One is rewarded by a smile. One is animated by a smile. That's the words of the wisdom of a wise French guy. Antoine says some very good things about smile there, right?
The one that wrote the...
Who is he?
Le Petit Prince.
He's well known.
Yeah.
Oh,
he wrote The Little Prince. You don't know The Little Prince?
Oh.
He's okay. He's the Little Prince guy.
So he was a pilot and he was in the desert. He was with, he had a special thinking. He had to open the ways to go to South America with the airplanes. And somebody that needed, he was with the...
Isn't it good to have her here at the table all the time? Okay.
It's so nice. He wrote so many beautiful
Well, once
things
again,
about
this is what...
the relationship between human beings.
But why does Daisaku Ikeda constantly reflect these quotations from non-Buddhists in the things that he writes to us? The truth is the truth is the truth is the truth. Okay? Whether you have the ability to perceive it and call it what it actually is instead of what you think it is doesn't really change the influence of what he's saying here. All right?
Yes.
When you smile at your parents, brightening the depths of their hearts and make the cause for the start of a fundamental change, a sincere smile is a kind of switch that puts you, your family, and your community on the track to developing a higher state of life. With me? Okay, so 2, that was 1, be good to mom and dad. 2, sincerity and trust are the treasures of youth. Second, Nichiren discusses being loyal to one's Lord. We can interpret this as teaching Tokimitsu the attitude needed to win trust in one's community and society. He stresses the importance of behaving with integrity and trustworthiness in serving one's Lord. Whether our efforts are appreciated or not, the unseen virtue we accumulate will eventually shine as visible reward. When you decide to try to change, it may take a while before the things that are reflected around you reflect that change. But if you endeavor to make that change and don't give up, they will. Always. Okay, don't be discouraged by the fact that I changed. Why didn't everything change yet? It's karma. Sometimes you have to go through a little bit of what you've created for yourself. May I have a tissue, please? Thank you. You may sometimes feel, pardon me. Here we go. Going off of that last sentence, whether our efforts are appreciated or not, the unseen virtue we accumulate will eventually shine as visible reward. You may sometimes feel that your efforts for your employer are unrecognized and unrewarded, but if you keep learning, improving, and doing your best based on faith in the mystic law, you will achieve positive results and gain broader trust. If you advance sincerely based on faith, you'll accumulate good fortune and treasures of the heart. The treasures of the body, your health, abilities, and so on, will also shine brightly. Sincerity and trust are the true treasures of youth. Sincerity and trust are the true treasures of youth. Why is that? I got 3 stars there. Sincerity and trust are the treasures of youth. Because if you're young, while you're still young, what have you got now while you're young? If you can do this while you're young, the treasure of youth is for the young people. Okay? Sincerity and trust. Trust in what? Sincerity in what?
Sincerity and faith and trust in the Gohonzon.
Exactly, baby. Sincerity and faith and trust in the Gohonzon are the true treasures of youth because they're the building blocks for the great fortune of your later life. All right? In the object of devotion for observing the mind. Well done, Rio. Nichiren Daishonin writes, when skies are clear, the ground is illuminated. Similarly, when one knows the Lotus Sutra, one understands the meaning of all worldly affairs. We display our faith in daily life and put Buddhism into action in society. We need to focus on how we can win where we are right now. Practicing Nichiren Buddhism enables us to bring forth within our lives the sun of boundless wisdom for clearly perceiving the true aspect of reality. So what's he talking about there? Practicing Nichiren Buddhism enables us to bring forth within our lives the sun of boundless wisdom for clearly perceiving the true aspect of reality. What did that sentence just say? Practicing Nichiren Buddhism allows us to attain Buddhahood in our present form and influence our surroundings accordingly as the Buddha. Do you follow? Okay, top of page 25. Respect for all, the spirit of the Lotus Sutra. Third, first column, left column. Third, treating one's friends with courtesy means that although one may encounter them 10 or 20 times in the course of a single day, one greets them courteously as though they had traveled 1,000 or 2,000 miles to see one, never showing them indifference. Fourth, treating those who are less fortunate with pity and kindness means that toward those whose circumstances are inferior to one's own, one thinks of such persons as one's own children and shows them consideration at all times, exercising pity and compassion. These then, he continues with Tokumitsu, are the 4 virtues, and if you observe them in this manner, you may be called a worthy man or sage. If you pay attention to these 4 concerns, then although you may err in other ways, you don't have to be perfect, but as long as you focus on these most 3 fundamental things, you will still deserve to be called a good man. You will, if you can follow these 4 patterns of behavior, then although you have never read all the 3,000 volumes of the Confucian and Taoist classics, it will be as though you had, in fact, read them. Because your behavior will reflect the wisdom that's expressed in there. Because just these 4 things, do those, you're covered. Okay? You with me? All right, so number 3, going on to the third of the 4 things. He just covered 3 and 4 again here, right? Third, the Daishonin discusses treating one's friends with courtesy. He says, although one may encounter them 10 or 20 times in the course of a single day, one greets them courteously as though they had traveled 1,000 or 2,000 miles to see one, never showing them indifference. This resonates with the spirit of discussion meetings and other SGI activities. If someone rushes in late, we should greet them warmly and thank them for making the effort to attend in spite of their busy schedule. The SGI must always be a realm of warmth and reassurance. So no, you don't flash dirty looks at people when they come in late to meetings because they showed up late. Okay? You don't cop attitudes about anybody that's putting even the smallest, and even if you think it's an insincere effort, toward the Gohonzon. It's not your place to do that. You're not behaving as the Buddha when you do that. Now, you can have a talk with them about your own experience. You can talk about how, you need to change your ability to be at the right place at the right... You can be a living example. Okay? But you don't call out people doing the best they can.
They are there, it's already good enough.
Exactly.
Exactly. I did so many times. I'm there. I should be there many times.
It's like...
It takes time, it takes energy,
Exactly.
it takes resolution to go somewhere, okay?
Right.
That's to, you have to move yourself with a big force sometimes because you're not feeling like...
We don't do Jesus. Those kinds of attitudes are for Christians, frankly. We don't take other people's inventories. That's not what Buddhism is about. Okay, we don't judge others based on the limitations of our own capacity. Okay? It's not a good way to make good causes. It's not a good way to become happy. It's not a good way to be the Buddha. It's not being the Buddha.
No.
Okay? You're giving in to what you think you know that you don't know.
Right.
You're chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, but you still live in the realm of theoretical Buddhism, frankly speaking. Okay? Or the Buddhism according to others, not the Buddhism according to the Daishonen's teaching and the Buddhism of President Ikeda's teaching. Okay? And there's a lot of that going around, so you got to be careful. That's why I'm reading this to you. He says, where am I?
Courtesy doesn't mean...
Okay, courtesy doesn't mean empty formality. It's our sincerity that counts. Our respect for the other person, which manifests in our voice, our expression, and our actions. Okay? The purpose of the appearance in this world of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of Teachings, lies in his behavior as a human being. I read that to you again. Nichiren asserts, it would be no exaggeration to say, therefore, that the aim of Buddhism is to teach us the highest path of human behavior, exemplified by Bodhisattva never disparaging practice of respecting others as described in the Lotus Sutra. And I love it when Daisaku Ikeda says exactly the same shit I do. Okay, because this is what I've been saying to you for a while. Referring to the passage from the Lotus Sutra, if you see a person who accepts and holds the sutra, you should rise and greet him from afar, showing him the same respect you would a Buddha. Nichiren describes it as the foremost point Shakyamuni wished to convey to us. And when I was so involved in all the politics of the organization, and there was so much judgment that had nothing to do with what I just read in that paragraph, going on by people that supposedly knew what they were doing, I had to take issue with it because I already knew what the Gosho said. Okay? So I again, don't worry about what others do. You instill this in yourself. Remember, if you see a person who accepts and upholds this sutra, anyone, even if they're not wearing shoes and they haven't taken a bath for 2 months, okay? It doesn't matter who they are. You should show them the respect that you would a Buddha. You should rise and greet them from afar. Why? Because you see them accepting and upholding this sutra. That's the only qualifier. Nothing else. All right? Nichiren describes it as the foremost point of Shakyamuni, that Shakyamuni wished to convey to us. This, don't think you know what you don't know. Underlying the teaching of treating one's friends with courtesy is the importance of respect for all people. All right? Right? For all people. Even the ones that are completely different than us. And that's hard for me because, you know, I have a problem with Jesus people. So. Okay, fourth, the compassion to wish for others' happiness. The compassion to wish for others' happiness. Now, this is a really tricky one because everybody thinks that they wish for others' happiness, and most often they actually don't. They wish for other people's happiness as long as those people don't have happiness. The minute they get it, they become jealous of that happiness. God damn it, why did you get the
benefit?
Yeah. All right?
It's human nature.
It's totally.
Jealousy
We're talking
is
about
the
the
bad
reality
one
of the
that
fact
comes
that
all the time.
everybody that does this is going to have human nature. Everybody that does this is a human being. Everybody that's going to attain Buddhahood is also a human being.
Yep.
Right.
Okay? Nothing more than that. All right? So compassion to wish for others' happiness.
Yes.
This is a big one. This is kind of like Jesus. Fourth, Nichiren discusses treating those who are less fortunate with pity and kindness or compassion, as Jesus did.
Yeah.
We should always have compassion for the vulnerable or disadvantaged, he says, Nichiren says as well, and should show care and concern for them as if they were our own children. It's almost a parallel of exactly what Jesus said. The phrase less fortunate does not imply that such people are in any way inferior, but only recognizes the differences in social position, age, and experience that objectively exist, and indicates that there are times when we should take the initiative in helping others. Did you understand what he just said there? Let me read it one more time. We should always have compassion for the vulnerable or disadvantaged, he says, and show care and concern for them as if they were our own children. The phrase less fortunate does not imply that such people are in any way inferior, but only recognizes the differences in social position, age, and experience that objectively exist, and indicates that there are times when we should take the initiative in helping others, such as the Soka Gakkai does when there's a typhoon or some other thing like that. You know, we do charitable, outbound, kind of considerate things in circumstances of natural disaster without regard to people's religion. We don't only just help Soka Gakkai chanting people, right? Okay, so the Japanese word for compassion, jihi, is comprised of two characters which respectively represent the Sanskrit words maitre, meaning friendship, and karun, meaning pity or sympathy. The Nirvana Sutra, Nagarjuna's treatise on the great perfection of wisdom, and other Buddhist scriptures, the Nirvana Sutra, so he's going to talk about several different things. The Nirvana Sutra, Nagarjuna's treatise on the great perfection of wisdom, and other Buddhist scriptures define compassion as relieving suffering and imparting joy. As such, Buddhist compassion constitutes true friendship and the wish for the happiness of one's friends. Okay? It's not just charity that makes you feel better because you gave a bunch of money or a bunch of stuff that somebody else can give to other people that need it. Okay? That's not what we're talking about. All right? We're talking about your action as a human being. All right? So, as the ancient Roman philosopher Cicero wrote, you might as well take the sun out of the sky as friendship from life. Cicero also said that people should not want such a friend as they are unable to be themselves, and expect from their friends what they do not give themselves give. The fair course is to first be good yourself and then to look out for another of like character. Cicero said, you might just as well take the sun out of the sky as friendship from life. He says that people should not want such a friend as they are unable to be themselves, and expect from their friends what they do not themselves give. This is all cause and effect, right? This is creating karma and the karma being reflected in you. The karma you create being reflected back at you. The fair course is first to be good yourself, create the good fortune, and then look out for another person of like character. Somebody else that also is trying to create good fortune. through the appropriate behavior. You don't go hang out with people that are going to influence you to not behave that way, right? Friendship and compassion then start with becoming a good friend yourself. Friendship and compassion then start with becoming a good friend yourself. What's the best friend? A Buddha. The best friend you can have is a Buddha, because they can teach you and guide you toward Buddhahood yourself. Friendship and compassion start with becoming a good friend yourself. The best friend you can become is to become a Buddha in your present form. Mr. Buddha said there is no stronger force in the world than compassion. And he often taught us courage is the face of compassion. Because courage is how you show how others can live if they'll also have courage. It's one of the ways you demonstrate it, right? Rather than talking about it, doing it. Concerned about your friend's happiness, you actively reach out to them. You say what needs to be said. You tell the truth. You think about your friends. Do whatever you can for them. Chant for them. Truly sharing the mystic law with others and spreading the teachings and principles of Nichiren Buddhism are actions of supreme courage and compassion. In this letter, Nichiren says that one who observes the four virtues may be called a worthy person or a sage. Motivated by his wish that Tokimitsu develop into a fine human being, Nichiren seeks to teach various life skills and the requirements of leadership to this young man, who was no doubt filled with hopes and fears as he took on his new responsibilities in society as the Lord of Ueno at the age of 16. Okay? Continuing on page 26. I'll get through it. For challenging our human revolution is the way to repay our debts of gratitude. Okay, so what did that just say? Bottom of page 26, second column. Challenging our human revolution is the way to repay our debts of gratitude. How do we repay our debts of gratitude? By attaining Buddhahood in our present form. That, and you will not do that without challenging your human revolution is going through the process of attaining Buddhahood in your present form, and which does not happen without action and without a desire, a specific desire to do so. You got to go for it. You can't passively wait for it to come to you. It'll never happen. Okay? Challenging our human revolution, seeking to attain Buddhahood and express it in our present form is the way to repay our debts. It's the only way to repay our debts. Okay? Next, going back to the Gosho. Next, the four debts of gratitude of Buddhism are the debt of gratitude to be paid to one's father and mother. 2, the debt of gratitude to be paid to the ruler of the nation. 3, the debt of gratitude to be paid to all living beings. And 4, the debt of gratitude to be paid to the three treasures, the Buddha, the law, and the order. Third is the debt of then it goes on. Pardon me, what did I just do? Pardon me. Third is the debt of gratitude to be paid to all living beings. If you stop to consider, you will realize that at one time or another in the past, all men have been your father and all women your mother. Thus, in the course of all the many lifetimes and existences you have lived through, you have come to owe a debt of gratitude to all living beings. And since this is so, you should help all of them to attain Buddhahood. Now, this is the deal. This is what separates this Buddhism from all other life philosophies. Do you understand? What did this just qualify here? What did it just say in straight language, in words? What did the Daishonin just say? He said there are 4 debts of gratitude, right? What's the third one? It's right there. It says number 3, the debt of gratitude to be paid to all living beings. How hard is it to read that? Okay? But what other religion says you have a debt of gratitude, or life philosophy even, that you have a debt of gratitude to all living beings? That those people that are completely different with you over in South America, or wherever it is you think about being someplace completely disparate from you. Different people, different color than you, different language than you, different everything than you. What debt do you owe them? You do. They're human beings. They're included in everything we're saying here. Okay? What other philosophy teaches you the correct way of thinking that encompasses all living beings, rather than those of us that believe the same? We're on the same team. We worry about our team members. Screw everybody else. That's everything else that I can think of. If you're not on the team, do they care about you? No. This is, third is the debt of gratitude to be paid to all living beings. So, he says here, third is the debt of gratitude to be paid to all living beings. If you stop to consider, you will realize that at one time or another in the past, all men have been your father and all women your mother. Thus, in the course of all the many lifetimes in existence you have lived, you have come to owe a debt of gratitude to all living beings. And since this is so, you should help all of them to attain Buddhahood. By attaining Buddhahood yourself, which leads to Kosen Rufu, which is how all living beings can attain the same state as you. All right? That's how you show your gratitude to all living beings. He continues that I've shown it. I got a bunch of stars here, so I'm sure President K will say it better than me. Next, Nichiren discusses the 4 debts of gratitude as elucidated from the perspective of Buddhism. Gratitude entails knowing to whom we are indebted for our present life and circumstance, and by dedicating ourselves to our Buddhist practice, repaying the kindness showed to us. In another sense, showing gratitude means elevating our state of life from one of being supported by others to one of supporting others, drawing the power to do so from the innermost depths of our being by becoming the Buddha in our present form. In Sanskrit, there is the expression kritajna, which literally means acknowledging what has been done on one's behalf. After one acknowledges and appreciates what has been done for one, the next step is to live a life dedicated to the welfare of others. This is the origin of the term repaying debts of gratitude that appears in the Chinese sutras. Knowing and having appreciation that who we are now is the result of the actions and support of many others can powerfully affirm our sense of self and help us build a foundation for our life and our ongoing personal growth. Showing our gratitude is the challenge of human revolution, the process by which we can develop our potential to the greatest possible extent. Human revolution is attaining Buddhahood. Showing our gratitude is the challenge of attaining Buddhahood in your present form. That's what that just said. Okay? The process by which we develop our potential to the greatest possible extent. Buddhahood, right? In this letter, Nietzsche, so in other words, if you don't get this shit down, you're not going to get there. That's why this, there's no other teaching in Buddhism about your behavior. It doesn't say you got to quit swearing or not have sex or any of those other things. But your character as a human being is important. Not a bunch of extraneous bullshit rules made up by priests. That's the point. This is about humanism. All right? Not religiosity, even though he's addressing it from the religious perspective. Do you follow the point I'm trying to make? Okay, so in this letter, Nichiren discusses the 4 debts of gratitude owed by all. The first is the debt of gratitude owed to one's mother and father. How infinitely profound is the debt we owe to our parents who gave us life and nurtured us. Nichiren says that our debt to our father is higher than Mount Sumeru, and our debt to our mother is deeper than the ocean. We must find some way of repaying this enormous debt. The first thing we need to do, he tells us, is to take faith in Buddhism. Parents' greatest wish is for the growth and happiness of their children. So entering the path to happiness by having faith and practicing Buddhism is the kindest thing we can do for our parents and the best way to show our gratitude to them. Second, because also they stay attached to us. Don't think they were our parents in this lifetime. They're going to disappear in your next. If you had them if you were that close in this lifetime, you will be close to them again. They may not be your parents. That might have shifted. But you're not going to be shed of that relationship for a while. That's part of your crew. If you're the Buddha and they didn't attain Buddhahood in their present form, you've got to understand that process will continue in a future existence. You will be the teacher again. You must continue to lead them. You must continue to be concerned about them. You must continue to chant for their happiness and for them to embrace the law. All right? Second is the debt to the nation's ruler. This is the gratitude owed to the sovereign for supporting one's livelihood. This is the bottom of page 27, second column. Second is the debt of gratitude to the nation's ruler. This is the gratitude owed to the sovereign for supporting one's livelihood, thereby providing one with food, shelter, and clothing, just as we talked about. In today's democratic world where sovereignty rests with the people, it is gratitude to society itself. Similarly, therefore, Nichiren remarks about praying for the ruler to enjoy peace and security in his present existence and good circumstances in future existences could today be interpreted as praying for the happiness of every member of society. Okay? That's a little bit abstract, but if you get your head wrapped around it, you can find it part of your daily prayer. Third, the third is the debt of gratitude to all living beings. Life is eternal, extending through the three existences of past, present, and future. The sutras teach that we have been born in this world after having undergone the cycle of birth and death infinite numbers of times. Okay, infinite times. From that point of view, at one time or another in the past, all men have been our father and all women have been our mother. Or at least you understand the point, right? Buddhism sees Buddhism sees us all as related and owing debts of gratitude to one another as living beings. Nichiren indicates here that this is why we should wish for the happiness of all people. He's basically saying you may not think you have a relationship with anybody else, with those people you don't know, but you do have a relationship with everyone. You're all living beings. You have that relationship in common. Okay? That's all that it takes in reality. He then attaches a relationship of they've all been your father or your mother. Well, technically, I guess that might, yeah. Okay, but the important thing is that just based on their humanity, it's enough. Nichiren indicates here that this is why we should wish for the happiness for all people. Since supreme happiness lies in attaining the state of life of Buddhahood, the best way to show our gratitude to others is to teach them Buddhism through our own behavior. The ultimate meaning for gaining enlightenment. The ultimate means for gaining enlightenment. And you teach them through your behavior, right? Mr. Toda said, true greatness means that even if you forget what you've done for others, you never forget what others have done for you. And always do your utmost to repay your debts of gratitude. Therein shines the light of Buddhism. That's the whole mentor-disciple relationship. You know, when I talk about Mr. Matsuoka or Mr. Toda, those people that inspired me, those people that are the reason I'm still chanting for almost 50 years, they are absolutely responsible for me still being here talking to you. That's that debt of gratitude. That's really what this is all about, is never forgetting what others have done for you and always do your utmost to repay your debts of gratitude. I'm repaying my debt of gratitude to my mentors. These guys were mentors to many people, not just me. I pray for everybody they ever encouraged. I can't speak for others. I only know what kind of encouragement, lasting encouragement I got out of it. You get it? Therein shines the light of Buddhism, this total interrelatedness of all things. Everybody that my mentors taught are also related to me. Such people radiate integrity, depth of character, generosity, and charm. This, too, is the conclusion at which I have arrived after more than 60 years of Buddhist practice. Okay, so he's expressing this. This is my opinion, but it's based on my interaction with the reality I've lived. Just as I'm expressing that to you most of the time I'm talking to you. I have seen many different people who have lived lives of gratitude, people who have been ingrates. Those who have a sense of appreciation and gratitude are loved and trusted by everyone and lead lives of tremendous fulfillment and satisfaction. Based on Nichiren's teachings, it is clear that the inner radiance of those who embody true gratitude will imbue their lives with indestructible good fortune and benefit throughout the three existences. He's saying, take it to the bank. And I totally second that. Okay, continuing page 28. Only the Lotus Sutra lets us repay the debt owed to our mothers. Does everybody understand why? I explained that before. Why is the Lotus Sutra that only lets us, is the only one thing that allows us to repay our debt to our mothers?
Because the place of the woman in the
Is the only sutra that says
The only
sutras are
sutra
just the
that's-
same as men.
Mm.
Fourth is a debt of gratitude to be paid to the three treasures of Buddhism. If one asks, this is going back to the Goshokan. If one asks, then, what sutra enables one to repay the four debts of gratitude? I would reply that it is none other than the Lotus Sutra, which reveals that women can attain Buddhahood. What reason is there to believe that our mothers, through the power of this sutra, cannot become Buddhas? Therefore, a person who upholds the Lotus Sutra is repaying the debt of gratitude owed to father and mother. Even if one does not feel in one's heart that one can do so, one can repay it through the power of this sutra. Okay? 4, going on. Nichiren teaches, and then we're in the home stretch. 4th, Nichiren teaches that repaying our debt of gratitude to the three treasures of Buddhism is the most important in leading the best possible life as a human being. The three treasures are the three pillars of Buddhist faith and practice, namely the treasure of the Buddha, the treasure of the law, the Buddhist teachings, and the treasure of the Buddhist order, the community of believers. Nichiren's discussion of the debts of gratitude we owe to these three treasures in this letter is predicated on the question of what sutra truly benefits all people. Referring to the great teacher Tentai's classification of Shakyamuni's lifetime teachings to 5 periods, the Daishonin specifically investigates the sutras which sutras contain the teaching that women can attain Buddhahood, which he identifies as the criterion for repaying one's gratitude to one's parents, especially to one's mother. The 5 periods evaluate Shakyamuni's teachings, not just chronologically, but based on a thorough investigation of the Buddha's true intent. That is, what his message was and how he was trying to convey it. We can assume that Nichiren shares with Tokimitsu the basics of this system in an easily accessible way as an aid to the young man's further study of Buddhism. Nichiren then asks, what sutra enables one to repay the 4 debts of gratitude? When the Buddhist scriptures are measured by the benchmark of the enlightenment of women, he says, only the Lotus Sutra passes the test. Tokimitsu's father died when he was young, and it was his mother, the lay nun Ueno, who kept the family together. Having witnessed this, Tokimitsu must have earnestly wished to show his gratitude to his mother and assure her lasting happiness, and he did, because he carried her ashes in a jar all the way up Mount Minobu. Okay, after she passed away, before the Daishonin had passed away. Tokimitsu must have earnestly wished to show his gratitude to his mother and assure her lasting happiness. At the same time, he must have also felt a desire to show gratitude for his father, who had taught him about faith in the mystic law. In this letter, Nichiren directly addresses the foremost concern of Tokimitsu openly. In this letter, Nichiren directly addresses the foremost concern of Tokimitsu, opening the young man's eyes to the greatness of Buddhism and teaching him how to live as a person of wisdom. When the 4 virtues, starting with the Taoist and Confucian teachings of being good to one's parents and exploring a code of conduct for worthies and sages, are regarded anew from the perspective of the supreme teaching of the Lotus Sutra, they can all be regarded as actions of Buddhas in daily life, because that is how you behave as a Buddha, frankly. Such actions include smiling at our mother to reassure her, winning the trust of others at our workplace, respecting our friends, and treating our juniors with compassion. It's almost like duh, right? The mystic law is the great teaching that leads not only our parents, to whom we owe a profound debt, but also our siblings, our friends, and all those in our life to happiness that will endure throughout the 3 existences of past, present, and future. Even if our own parents and friends don't understand our Buddhist practice now, the beneficial power of the mystic law is absolute. Once we open the door, they've heard the name and the words of the truth. They ain't getting away. Okay? That's like a fish hook with a barb this big in it. Okay? The beneficial power of the mystic law is absolute. Once you encounter it, you can never leave its effect. If we ourselves strive earnestly in faith, we can definitely lead those around us to enlightenment. And you should have that understanding. It doesn't matter whether they practice in front of you and prove that you were right. Okay? It's about them proving the Gohonzon right to themselves. And you have a function in the manner in which you promised to when you took your vow. If we ourselves strive earnestly in faith, we definitely can lead those around us to enlightenment, just as the sun rises and illuminates all on earth. And the sun always rises and it always illuminates all on earth. Okay? So there isn't a single person that you've tried to lead to Buddhahood that will not eventually attain Buddhahood. Period. There is no need to worry or to rush things. 3 stars. There is no need to worry or to rush things. Some families have no children, but all the children in Soka Gakkai are all children, our successors in Kosen Rufu. Be positive and confident that your encouragement to these youthful successors will be a source of strength for them and will shine in their lives as a treasure of the heart. So what did that just say? Whether you have your own freaking kids or not, always encourage youth. Always use the lessons of your life to encourage young people, to get them started on the right path as early as they'll accept it. Follow? Even if you don't have kids, everybody's your kid. True peace and security are found in unwavering faith. Boy, if that isn't the truth. Let's finish this Gosho. Thus we know that Shakyamuni, many treasures, and the countless Buddhas of the 10 directions, superior practices, and the other bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth, Universal Worthy, Manjushri, and the other bodhisattvas of the theoretical teaching, Shariputra and the other great voice-hearer disciples, the great heavenly King Brahma, the gods of the sun and the moon, and the other heavenly lords and deities, the 8 kinds of non-human beings, the 10 demon daughters, as well as the great and small deities of the country of Japan. Well, as a shadow follows a form, guard anyone who has firm faith in this Lotus Sutra and remains at all times stalwart and unwavering in that faith. Think of this, never let your mind stray, be firm in faith at all times, and you will enjoy peace and security in your present existence and good circumstances in future existences. And of course, everything he just listed there is all on the Gohonzon. This is the concluding section of the letter, first top of the second column, page 30. Nichiren writes that anyone who has firm faith in this Lotus Sutra and who remains at all times stalwart and unwavering in that faith will be protected by the countless Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and benevolent deities of the universe, and will be assured of peace and security in their present existence and good circumstances in future existences. Don't worry about your next life. You're covered. Urging Tokumitsu to keep alive the pure-hearted determination of his youth, no matter what happens, he also writes, never let your mind stray, be firm in faith at all times. To remain at all times stalwart and unwavering is the very essence of faith in the mystic law. Nanjo Tokimitsu continued to strive in complete accord with Nichiren's teachings, overcoming various hardships and sufferings in the course of his life. He was written this letter when he was 17 years old. We all know what he did as a man at Tatsunokuchi, okay, to help everybody. Pardon me, not at Tatsunokuchi, at the Asahara persecution. Okay? All right? So, at the time of the... Next sentence, Tom. At the time of the Asahara persecution, Tokimitsu was harshly criticized. I'm sorry. Harshly criticized and persecuted, including being forced to pay onerous taxes that threatened his very livelihood. He lost his younger brother, Shichiro Goro, and also personally suffered from serious illness. But he triumphed over all these adversities through sincere faith in the mystic law and devoted his life to the great vow for Kosen Rufu. Mr. Toda often said, faith is all important. And, star here, the key is fostering people who make faith their foundation, that listen to what you're saying in the correct teaching and can embrace it. We need to constantly encourage and foster young people striving to nurture splendid individuals of faith and outstanding members of society. Fortunately, Nichiren provided us with a perfect example to emulate in that respect. And President Keita is the perfect living example because he's emulated in the same manner that the Daishonin has. Of course, the objective of a youthful SGI is not solely the growth and development of young people. To foster youth is to create a bright, hope-filled future, which in turn serves to rejuvenate each member and fill our organization and our communities with a fresh, vibrant spirit. If we can reinforce our tradition of supporting and fostering youth within the organization and sending capable individuals out into society, the SGI itself will brim with youthful energy and be more dynamic than ever before. And if the current of SGI's humanistic philosophy spreads among the younger generation now, similar to how Nichiren taught the Lotus Sutra's teaching of respect for all to the young Tokimitsu, we can help youth overcome any sense of hopelessness, and the destiny of our society will definitely be transformed. The human revolution of a single youth. Remember this, all of you youth. Remember, he's talking to you now. He's not talking to me. I already know this. He's saying, the human revolution of a single youth can transform family, society, and the destiny of humanity as a whole. Any single one of you can do this. I call on all of our members to take part in the sacred undertaking of fostering successors like Tokimitsu. A steady stream of young people who will shoulder the mission of Kosen Rufu in the 21st century is emerging throughout Japan and around the world. Truly, a new age is dawning. Youth, climb new mountains of Kosen Rufu in the 21st century. As members of the SGI family, let's resolve to achieve absolute victory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.